We're going in on this one, boys. Yeah, it's that real this time around. With Operation Harsh Doorstop seemingly getting so much hate, for lack of a better word. Time someone, besides Blue Drake, set the record straight. And sure.
Why are you, like, using sound effects in the middle of your video that's supposed to be like a commentary? Like, why are you doing these, like, little, ad-libs or whatever you want to call it? Like, not really how that, you know what I mean. These little sound effects of, like, in the gameplay of you just, like, screeching because of explosions. Why are you doing that? It's just weird and distracting. Not an actual complaint, like, towards the video or the commentary itself. Just, it's really odd. Anyway.
It's just their opinion. I will just be simply pointing out that they are uninformed opinions. What is crack-a-lackin', all my mill simps and casual gamers alike? If you're new around here, do know we give away a Steam key to one of our lucky viewers at the end of the week, every week. There's actually no better time to be a viewer of the channel because
See how basic this looks so far? Like, it doesn't look terrible. And it's even better when you look into these buildings over here, which I think he goes through a little bit. There's absolutely nothing in any of them. And we're not even talking like base level, like Squad has very little details to make cities and buildings feel lived in. We're talking like less than that. We're talking absolutely nothing is in these buildings. It's very, very, very bare bones. And that goes not only for the graphics and for the environments and the maps, that goes for the gameplay itself. But, yeah, just a random thing I wanted to point out. And the graphics are okay. I wasn't expecting, like, super high-end graphics. Like, you could see on the trees here, there's kind of odd-looking leaves. I don't know if he's running this on high settings. He should be. I think it looks... he might be running on something else, because I think it looks a little bit better than this in-game, but not by much.
we have a plethora of awesome Steam keys to give to you guys. For details on how to enter, just stay tuned till later in the video, because we're going to jump right into this one. I can no longer bite my tongue. I wish I had this video out 24, 36, 40.
See what I mean, though? Like, you can see the desk over here to the left. Like, that's kind of more than what Squad would have, really. But then you see over here to the right, in those windows, it's literally just, like, doorways. And, like, maybe some shelving. Like, that's it. That's the entire building right there. There's no other furniture. There's no, it just, the entire area doesn't feel real at all. It doesn't feel like it's lived in. It doesn't feel like it's a real place. But, minor complaint to the game. Again, very early stages of development. So,
48 hours ago, but I've been laboring away at the old slave mill trying to keep a little something in the coffers. So if you're watching my video or are a fan of the channel, this mill sim tack shooter niche, then chances are you know Blue Drake 42. He's probably been in this particular niche more than any other creator that I know.
for anybody who isn't aware, Blue Drake 42 is actually the, I don't know if he's the guy, I don't want to completely speak out of ignorance here, but I think that he is pretty much the sole, like, organizer, like the main organizer of Operation Harsh Doorstop. So I think that, like, a group of people that he is associated with had the idea of, like, hey, I want these things in a milsim. Hey, I want these things in a milsim. And they're like, hey, we all kind of, like, you know, see the issues with different milsims. Like, why don't we combine and, like, create something that we all enjoy and, like, something that, like, basically we think we could do it a little better. So, and that's what they're doing. So, that's who Blue Drake is. He's also been a major part of the community here for milsims and just realistic shooters in general. So, he's got a pretty good name to himself. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how well he's going to be looked at, depending on how this project goes. Like, I don't think he himself has any ill will towards anything in this. Like, I think he genuinely wants to make a good game and a good milsim. However, a lot of his reputation is going to hang on this game. He's slapped his name to the game. He's released already. I think the game's only been out 3 months now, and I think he's made probably 4 videos on it already, just constantly reminding the community of it and pushing it. When it, honestly, it's not in the state that you really want to push it. But, again, like, a lot of his reputation will be based on how this game turns out. Luckily, though, they do have the fact that it is free, so it's not like they're out here scamming people, right? They aren't sitting here asking for money off of Steam right now. and they don't plan to. This is always going to be a free-to-play game from what they have said. But again, I'm kind of worried about how this will kind of make people look at Blue Drake in the future.
And then you have some of my favorites, like Karma Cut, Controlled Pairs Gaming. And these guys I kind of grew up with, was introduced to Squad by Karma, and enjoyed CPG's early Postscriptum stuff. 6-7 years ago, there weren't too many other creators in this exact genre.
Unfortunately.
But nowadays, the genre is growing, and so are the creators that cover it. Now, I've also been a fan of Bigfry, who really got popular.
Again, with the random sound effects inside of the video gameplay that you're using to have commentary over. Are you making a little, like, comical montage of the game, or are you doing a commentary over the game? Because I'm not really understanding what you're going for.
Kind of roasting all of the sad attempts of games on Steam. And if you're anything like me and have been into this like niche of tactical gaming, you probably know Bigfry too. And then you have the newer heads, guys who have seemingly blew up out of nowhere. For example, if you're watching this, you've probably seen Tacti Gamer's short channel, Tic Tacti, bare minimum. I mean, the shorts he was making were huge, but these are the...
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who that guy is. I don't really run in the milsim community very much in terms of like watching their content, or like I know of Blue Drake, I know Karma. I mean, I've never heard of this guy. Both the video creator Boogie5 and this Tacti guy. I've never heard of him. Apparently he's made a lot of YouTube shorts covering Operation Harsh Doorstop, and Boogie5 here doesn't like his opinion on it. That's about all I know about the guy. I didn't even bother going to look at what Tacti was saying, because he kind of addresses it here in the video, and I'm just going to address the points that he addresses, basically.
Two creators whose video I watched, and realizing that thousands, hundreds of thousands of young, impressionable minds, all who seemingly want more out of their FPS, more tactical, more immersive, more realistic experiences, all of the young minds are being molded by what Tacti Gamer and Bigfry are saying in their videos. So, if I could grab...
How big do you think that the milsim community is? Thousands and thousands of minds? I mean, with things like Tarkov becoming super popular, and I mean, I guess you would call that a tactical shooter in a way, like it's in its own way, and same for DayZ. It is in its own right a tactical shooter of some type. However, we're not talking about like just generic tactical shooters. We're talking about genuine milsims right now. The community's not that big, man. Like, I don't know about like thousands and thousands of different minds that these people are influencing.
Just a couple thousand of these minds, just kind of correct the information they may have received. Now, before I get into what they said, their opinions, and exactly how they're uninformed opinions, I do want to make clear that both Bigfry and Tacti, well, despite the name, aren't exactly tactical, to say the least. Both of them...
Okay, so there's two things that I gotta address right there. So, oh, hold on. Let's just back it up for just a second. I want to...
Tacti, well, despite the name... opinions, I do want to make clear that both Bigfry and Tacti, well, despite the name, aren't exactly tactical, to say the least. Both of them cover more mainstream titles. Not only cover them, but glorify them. Speak their praises. Since I've been watching, I believe both of them have covered every Call of Duty and every Battlefield.
Yeah, so right off the bat. So, automatic, hey, your opinion is not only wrong, but it's uninformed. First off, from what I understand, Bigfry and Blue Drake are like actual friends, right? I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that they're like good buddies who game together regularly, or at least used to. Because I remember Bigfry talking about this upcoming project, Operation Harsh Doorstop, long before hardly anybody else was talking about it. Like, this was something that Bigfry was already in open discussion about. And very excited for, because it was his friend Blue Drake creating something, and he was kind of, just hyping him up. So, and I'm pretty sure that they have a reasonable relationship. So, I don't know how you're getting off that they are uninformed. Tacti, again, I don't really know that person, so I don't know what kind of relationship he has with either Blue Drake or any of the other developers on the project, but Bigfry and Blue Drake are pretty close if I remember right. So how are you more informed than him? Not sure that's how that works. Also, the second point here that he goes into is, oh, Bigfry and Tacti have covered Call of Duty. They've covered Battlefield. They've covered big shooters from AAA companies, and they sing their praises. I've seen Bigfry absolutely destroy Battlefield games. Again, don't know who Tacti is, but Bigfry has gone in on not only Battlefield games, Call of Duty games, any big shooter that's come up. He doesn't really have a wish-washy opinion on things. He's usually pretty solid. There have been instances where I've been like, he kind of changed up his tune on something, but typically, unless something like problems are directly addressed and fixed, you're not going to win Bigfry over. Like, I don't think he's the type of guy that is just going to chase trends and just chase YouTube clout by covering Call of Duty and Battlefield and be like, oh my god, these are the best games ever. They're not like, Jack Frags, all right? Sorry to call it Jack Frags, but they're not. Bigfry, I'm pretty sure he laid into Battlefield 5 and 2042 when it first came out. Said it was, absolutely awful fucking game, which it's a pretty right opinion on that one. Call of Duty, yeah, he sung the praises of the Call of Duty 2019 remake or reboot, and for good reason though. I'm not a huge Call of Duty fan. I haven't been in years, but the Call of Duty reboot was really fucking good. It felt like it completely reinvented the series in some way, but so that game deserved the praise. So I'm not really sure where you're getting off on that Bigfry is just this AAA lover, all right? Not realistic. But not only that, does it matter? You say that, oh, they're not really part of the tactical community. Are you the gatekeeper of this community? I have to go to you for a membership? Do I, write you an email? Like, how does this work? Because I don't play a ton of milsims. I've played, Arma for a long time, Arma 2, Arma 3. I've played, DayZ, Postscriptum, Hell Let Loose. I've played, Squad, Project Reality. Like, I've been around for a while in the milsim community and played a lot of the games. I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a big milsim person, though. But I still think I can have an opinion on what makes a good milsim, what makes a bad one, features and design choices that I like, don't like, think that hurt the game, that benefit the game. I don't have to be a tactical guy to have an opinion. So that's one thing that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. You can kind of fuck off with that one. But anyway, let's go on.
That have came out, and I get it, and it's probably exactly why they are much bigger than me. And granted, that's the game that YouTube is. It's all about following trends. But I think it's very clear to anybody that's watched.
Again, you're gonna call Bigfry a trend follower. Bigfry got his notoriety by making meme videos about or meme review videos about the Steam absolute trash that is on there. These $10, $15, $20 fucking asset flip games that are absolute garbage that scam a handful of people that nobody's even heard of. So in what way, how is he a trend follower? Like, he made a lot. You look at Bigfry's entire video list, he's made a way more videos covering things like that and startup projects and things that most people haven't even ever heard of. But you're going to say he's a trend follower. Trend follower, not a real tactical guy. Okay.
Either of them, that they are nowhere near on the tactical, for lack of a better word, level that, say, Karma Cut or CPG is. I mean,
again, it doesn't matter. I wouldn't. God, I wouldn't consider myself part of the tactical community. I wouldn't consider myself nearly as know-how in the tactical scene as Karma, but I can still have an opinion. My opinion is still valid. It doesn't matter who says it or how they say it. If they make a valid point, and they have a valid criticism, it's still a valid criticism.
No offense, Fry Daddy, but anybody can watch your stream and see that your idea of tactics is calling out the place you last died from. Now, the last thing I want to do is have people think I have some beef or hatred towards either one of these guys, because I don't. I just watched their last video about Operation Harsh Doorstop and thought the least I could do would be to set the record straight for...
And also, I don't think he's doing that either. I don't think he is, I don't think he's, like, over here just, like, shit-talking either of these content creators. But I think he's really, really fanboying this game. I'm not really sure why. Who knows? But I think he just has the biggest fanboy boner for this fucking Operation Harsh Doorstop right now. That's what I'm calling out. Not necessarily him calling out other content creators. I don't care about that. But I just can't stand somebody who fanboys over a game and will just write off all criticism and find excuses for anything that you ever say, which is pretty much what he's doing in this video.
A couple thousand people that actually watch my video. So let's get into it. And before we do know that the reason I know these things is because I spoke to Bluedrake42 personally, myself, for over an hour. And I actually have the entire interview up. You can check it out right now. It's linked down in a pinned comment.
You know what I love about that? Is the video that he is referencing is, so the his video and Bigfry's video released within the same time period, like within the same couple of days, right? So I know what video that he's referring to. And his point is that I have spoke and interviewed Blue Drake directly, okay? Because for one, a person will never lie, right? A person will never hype their own projects up. A person will never be disingenuous with what he's saying about his own vested interests. Not saying that Blue Drake would, but just because you talk to somebody, just because I go and talk to a game developer, doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, yeah, that quells all suspicions right there. They're totally, yeah, they're good. You know, I'm sure that we're going to get every single thing that we want, and every criticism will be addressed. Easy. No. All right. Second off, the video that he's referencing from Bigfry has literal clips from Blue Drake himself. And in that, Bigfry talks about talking with Blue Drake. He literally talks about how he is kind of on the fence on both ends because he can see the criticisms and he can see the, not really excuses, but the reasonings behind why some of these things that are criticized are missing or not fixed yet. And he talks about talking directly with Blue Drake, and that's what kind of has him on the fence, is the things Blue Drake says and his relationship with Blue Drake. He kind of just wants to believe what Blue Drake is saying. So I'm not really sure how your argument of, well, I spoke to Blue Drake personally and interviewed him for an hour, so therefore everything he said was 100% truthful. He would never lie to me. Really? Like, what kind of argument is this? Again, just don't like Fanboy.
Watch the video, then come back and finish this one. So, it's rather evident that Bigfry and Tacti Gamer, now, don't get me wrong, there's a few more, but let's just stick with these two guys, as they're fresh in my mind. Both of these guys clearly are not following Operation Harsh Doorstop, its synopsis or plan, and more importantly, the reason for releasing in the state it's in. So they're going at this game.
Yeah, clearly they're not paying attention to the real reasoning behind the game. Clearly, that's not what's happening here. Because, again, Bigfry isn't a personal friend of Blue Drake or anything. He wouldn't have any inside scoops that maybe even the general broader community wouldn't have. That's not what's happening. Jesus.
Both of them as if it's reviewing any other game. And to do that is unfair. You'll see in my exclusive interview with Blue Drake that...
How exactly is it unfair to review it like it's any other game? If anything, that's more fair, especially coming from Bigfry, because, again, he has a personal relationship with Blue Drake. They have stated that they are at least, like, gamer buddies, right? So they know each other somewhat. He has a personal relationship with Blue Drake. That makes him way more likely to be biased. So for him to treat Operation Harsh Doorstep like any other game and review it like it's any other game is actually good for him. That actually shows a good bit of his character. So I'm not really sure how you can say that it's not fair to judge it like it's any other game. I know that you're about to say something about, oh, it's the modding community. It's made for the players, and it's going to be built from the ground up, and it's going to take a really, really, really long time. Blah, 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 blah. Like, I know you're going to come up with a million different excuses as to why we can't judge it yet. But in reality, we can, we will, we have. Fuck off with trying to tell us how to think or how to feel about something.
For the past year or more, the Drakeling Labs team could have been focusing on little quality of life improvements, things that make the gunplay better, free look, more effects, all these things that flesh out the experience, or even a spawn system like rallies and fobs, or if you play Hell Let Loose, OPs and garrisons. But that is not what the development team has been focusing on recently. What they have been focusing on more than anything else is the implementation of modding. Now, us gamers, most of us really don't understand coding or how games are made at all, but I think most of us know enough. Most of us played Project Reality. Most of us played Battlefield 3 and 4 growing up, and we know most.
Wow. So they've been focusing on the implementation of mods. Okay. But the game released 3-4 months ago with full mod support. The game released day one. That was their big release, news was, yes, the base game is out and the mod support is fully active. That's when I gave it a pass, was when it first came out 3-4 months ago, and they were like, hey, this is the most basic level of the game right now. We're going to continue to work and update, and we're also, you guys have full mod support right now. You guys can do whatever you want with the game. It's an open book for you guys. That's when I gave it a pass. Back then. I no longer give it a pass 4 months fucking later when they still don't have your most basic general quality of life improvements. For example, the gunplay feels like every single gun is the exact same. Alright? It doesn't feel good to shoot guns. The vaulting, the animation itself, which is in the base game, which I have yet to see a single mod change, or I don't know if they can. I don't know what it is with that, or people just don't care that much about the vaulting. But the animation locks you in, and it takes half a year for you to vault over. And it's not consistent in the slightest. Some things you can vault over or vault onto. Some things, whether despite the fact that you might have just vaulted on something much taller than the item you're trying to vault onto, sometimes you just can't. You're just not allowed. Game says no. Don't know why. Respawns like rallies and things like that. That's Milsim 101, really. I mean, come on. And you can't use the excuse of, maybe the community doesn't want it. Okay, well, if you're releasing a game that has full mod support and a game where you have, just this plethora list of options to turn on and off, that's your whole end game goal, is to have a massive list of options that people, without any modding or coding experience, can go through and set rules of the game to kind of be their own idea of what they want. If that's your end game goal, you have no excuse as to why rallies and fobs and revives, another one, you have no reason, no excuse that you have not been able to implement that in the past 3 to 4 months that you have been out. None. How about a crawling animation, a prone crawling animation? Still don't have that. 3 to 4 months in. Again, where's your excuse for that? There's a lot of base features that any milsim, not even any milsim, but any core FPS has that currently Operation Harsh Doorstop does not have. And you can't tell me they've been focused on mod support, because guess what? The game released with mod support. Unless you're trying to tell me that it takes about, 6 months for them to go ahead and add a crawl animation for their prone. Yeah, not how that works, man. Again, you could design some of these quality of life features, and I'm not saying you got to do all of them in, 2 weeks. But if you showed that you were implementing some of these things, like the revives, the crawling animation, the fobs, rallies, etc., if you showed you were implementing these as you, work on whatever else you guys are going for, I'd be a lot more accepting of it. I would be a lot more okay with it. But there's not even any indication. The only thing I've heard is Blue Drake saying, well, basically, he's waiting to see what the community wants. Which, again, you can't really use that as an excuse when you want a list of options you can turn on and off. That should be something you put in now, and then if people don't want it, they turn it off.
Of us that these games are a pain in the ass to mod. In fact, not only did it take years, decades to break these things down and make them moddable, but there are some things that are just hard coded, cannot be modded. So what Bigfry and Tacti Gamer failed to mention in their videos is that an overwhelming amount of energy, time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears.
Do you guys hear that sound? You guys hear that? Like, to me, it sounds like my headphones are like just cracking and popping, you know? Like, that's how bad the audio quality is right now. I don't know. Some people say they really like it. The audio quality for me, like, goes up and down, right? Sometimes I actually really love, like, the off far distant gunshots and those battles. Like, I kind of like that, like, this almost echoey sound of gunfire that's reasonably realistic for a video game, right? But then it's the same sound effects when you're up close. Like, guns have no, like, meaty, punchy sounds to them. Like, this AK right here, like, it doesn't feel like an AK or sound like an AK. It sounds wimpy. Same thing for, like, any of your M4s, any of your handguns, your SKSs, your M1 Garands, your Springfields, Car 98s. Like, all of them sound very weak. They don't sound good. And it's not even a realism thing, because they don't sound like that in real life, so you can't blame realism. No, it's just a really poor audio quality right now. And again, I can deal with that. That's one of those things where, very early release, I'm okay with some meh quality audio. Just wanted to point it out.
Has gone into making this game moddable by any and all directions. So you can't be Bigfry or Tacti Gamer or any of these other creators and say, oh, you know, it's very bare bones, and then just like gloss it all over with, oh, but the idea is modding. This game's all about modding. Mods are gonna build this game up. And then, like, that's all you say about modding and keep it pushing on to the next. Oh, the gunplay isn't that great. Like, you're missing the big picture. And as far as journalism goes, you're doing a shite job. A wise man once told me, if you don't know what you're talking about, then don't speak on it. It's as if...
Oh, the irony. Oh, dear God. Wow. Whew. Yeah, you probably shouldn't speak on it. You really probably shouldn't speak on it. So, they're not doing a bad job of journalism. They're not misconstruing. They're not, trying to be like, hey, the game's absolute dog shit and there's never going to be a fix to it. Just fuck it. It's terrible. Again, Bigfry is, a friend of Blue Drake. He obviously wants him to succeed. And I watched the video that you are quoting. It wasn't even really him having criticisms. He was talking about understanding others' criticisms that have been levied at the game and also kind of defending it at the same time. Basically, the whole video was him talking about how he's conflicted between understanding the criticisms that the game rightfully has and trying to see Blue Drake's vision and have a little bit of faith in Blue Drake and his development team. So, I'm just not understanding your argument with that either, because you say, oh, they make this argument. They say the gunplay is kind of bad, but mods will fix it. Like, the game's revolved around modding, but they don't talk about how hard modding is. Well, the video's not about how hard modding is. Like, what else do you want them to say about it? Things like that shouldn't be about modding. It should be the core game is fixed. Gunplay being bad isn't something that modders should be expected to cover. All right? The gunplay should have a base decent feel. I'm not even talking about, like, we don't have to have top level best FPS gunplay in the world. But if we could get it to like a squad level, that would be better. This feels like the most generic asset flip style gunplay. Like, I have played actual Unity asset flips that have better feeling guns than this game. So, again, not really sure what else you want them to say. Like, you really just want the content creators like Bigfry to just suck the dick of Blue Drake and Operation Harsh Doorstop, and they aren't, and that just annoys you for some reason. They levy realistic and reasonable criticisms at the game, and you apparently aren't a big fan of that and live in an alternate reality, because all these are reasonable criticisms that I would give to any other game. They don't get a pass just because they're free to play. They don't get a pass just because they're emphasizing the community and mod support. They don't get a pass for any of that. They get a little more leniency, but they don't just get an outright pass for months and months to not implement the most basic features, basic quality of life features.
These guys are just making videos to get it out there, to follow the trend. Ooh, this game released today. I gotta hit the trend. I gotta get the views. But what's your...
Yeah. Bigfry's following that trend, guys. That Operation Harsh Doorstop trend. That game where I can get on right now and see that there's about, I think I was just on a little earlier, and there's about 60 players online on all servers out of all the mods that I have installed. About 60 players. Gotta hit them trends. Gotta keep trendy so you can get them numbers.
You're saying is like just some crap you thought up once you hit the record button? Come on, man. They released Operation Harsh Doorstop in this state for a reason. And if you ask me, I think it was by far the right choice. Sure, it sucks. There's no rally system or fobs, garrisons, whatever you want to call them. But you know...
So you admit it sucks, but you think it was right for them to release in this condition because you like it. That's what it's really about, is you like it. So therefore, no one can have a criticism on it.
What? Now we have the opportunity to innovate these systems. And let's be frank, these are systems that have been around for 20 years. If you look at Project Reality or World War II Online, over 20 years, they had player-made spawns. The reason Drakeling Labs spent the overwhelming majority of their time and effort working on the modding capabilities in the long run.
This is a professional tactical gamer at play right now. He's in his home. This SVD has never been in better hands. Now, in all seriousness, I'm just not understanding. I'm just not. You admit that it sucks. You admit that there are base quality of life issues that should be here that aren't. However, we get the chance to innovate. What? We don't need we could already do that with Squad. Yes, Squad is paid. However, Squad has always been cheap. I picked up Squad when it very first came around, and it was on sale 3 months after its release. I got it for $10, $15. I always see it on sale. Many of my friends who are not hardcore milsim guys that have been interested in Squad have waited for sales to come out and got a very, very cheap Squad. And guess what? Their whole SDK is, I could be wrong, but pretty confident it's open to the public and anybody can mod and create using that SDK in any way they want. So basically, Squad has the exact same capabilities that this game has, just Squad costs $10-15 more and is a complete game. So why are we defending this? What's your point? Why are you defending it? I've watched this entire video and I don't understand, other than the fact, the only real logical explanation is that you like the game, so therefore nobody can have a criticism on it. That's it. You don't give a genuine defense of the game. Your only thing is, hey, we can mod it. You could have modded plenty of games. Look at fucking Project Reality. Project Reality in itself is an entire overhaul mod that's been perfected over years of gameplay. Again, Squad has its whole fucking massive mod scene. The things some of them guys have done, like the Galactic Conquest Star Wars mod for Squad, that is ridiculous. Arma, another really big mod. Look at what came out of Arma 2 mods. Yeah, you have a lot of RP and shit, but you have DayZ, PUBG. You have a lot of standalone games that were created as Arma 2 mods that are now their own entities because they were so popular. So why is it that we have to defend this game because it has mod support? Is that really your only defense of the entire project? Is mod support. Therefore, you can't have a bad opinion about it. Because that's a really, really, really weak defense.
run will prove to be substantially a better idea than fleshing out the gunplay or finishing the spawn system. You see, the idea is that us...
Again, I'm not going to say that I would harshly criticize the game in the current state that it is in if they had, like, let's say, a decent roadmap and showed signs of implementing basic features, basic quality of life features, or improving things like gunplay. All right? I would not criticize it as harshly if they were doing that, because I understand that their whole priority was a community-ran mod support system where they will implement mods from the community into the game itself. I get that. However, it's been 3 to 4 months since the game released. You can't tell me that they've just been... Well, what have they been doing for 3 to 4 months? The game hasn't changed. The game's still the most basic fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Where's your defense of that? Like, they released with this great mod support system, but where's the basic quality of life changes? Where is the improvement?
Gamers, us modders, and yes, even you could mod the game. It's easier than you think. Don't have to know code. That we shape the future of this game. There'll be 1,000 people working on different spawn systems. And then guess what? We all agree on the best one, and that is what gets implemented into the
1,000 people.
game. All of us here know about Project Reality, and if you didn't already know, it
Do you?
took a freaking decade to break that game down and make it as moddable as it is. Why? Because EA,
Nope.
the creators of Battlefield, did not have modding in mind when they made it. Operation Harsh Doorstop, modding is the cornerstone. It's not just, oh, this game has modding. No, this game, more than any other game ever made, has modding at the forefront of its development. And for none of these big creators to go in and elaborate on what this could potentially mean boggles my mind. Y'all are slacking. And I don't know, maybe it's because we're old. I know Blue Drake is up in his 30s, pushing his 40s like me.
I have no idea what the hell age has to do with this, but whatever. No, your comment on they're slacking, no, they're not. Bigfry, again, talked a lot about how good the potential modding scene is. However, and this is a fair criticism, the core gameplay is severely lacking. And you know what? Not only, like, as a fanboy of the game, you should be worried about this too, because guess what? If you have a severely lacking core game that doesn't retain an audience, that no one's interested in, guess what happens to your modding scene? It disappears. Because who the fuck is going to mod for a game that has no player base? And I've already seen it start to happen with Operation Harsh Doorstop. God, that name is kind of bad. I've already seen it kind of start to happen. Like I said, you can go online on the game at any point, and you'll find like 60, 80, maybe 100 people online. That's it. And for a brand new release, that's rough. Like, Postscriptum is beating those numbers, and Postscriptum is on its way out. Like, Postscriptum I have watched slowly die over the time, which I hate, because honestly, I thought Postscriptum is a lot more fun than Hell Let Loose. But I kind of understand why that one's kind of winning in the World War II milsim. And I've watched Postscriptum slowly die, and it's still beating these numbers. Still hard beating these numbers. And this is a brand new release. A brand new release that big content creators are covering quite a bit. Again, Blue Drake has made like 3, 4, 5 videos about this in the past 2-3 months. So this is getting a lot of publicity. It has a massive Discord server. I mean, the Discord server alone has like some couple thousand people in it, like 10K or some shit. It's fucking massive. It's insane. Maybe not that much. I'll have to check on that number. But there's a ton of people in that Discord server, but no one playing the game. So as a fan of it, you should be more worried about the core concept of the game, the core fundamental base mechanics of the game, more than anybody. Because if you want the project to succeed, you need a actual fan player base. You need people that like the game to continue to play it. Because otherwise, modders are just going to leave. Modders are going to go to other games. They're going to go to Squad. They're going to go to Arma. They're going to go to other milsims that have reasonable modding options and stick to that. Why mod for a game that doesn't have anyone playing?
Is it because we've been around longer that we can see how important modding is? I mean, even you youngins today, take a look at what's most popular now. The Battle Royale. You know that was first created by one sweaty dude in a basement modding a game? When I was young, it was the arena shooter that was popular. Team Fortress was a mod of the original Quake, and then of course later moved over to Half-Life and Half-Life 2. Saying all this to say, it's not just like, oh, modding is responsible for a little bit.
Look at that. Let's watch that again. Look at that fucking. Wow. Look at that grenade throw, man. That was something else. It literally. So he throws it. It disappears. Shows back up right next to him. Flies in a direction he didn't throw it, basically. Hits that tree. Disappears. And then bounces that way. Like. Great.
It's not just like, oh, modding is responsible for a little bit of what's new in gaming. No, small indie teams and modders, little fat kids in the basement, are responsible for just about all of innovation in gaming. All of it. If you want to see something new...
So you want to know the main reason why I think that's happening, like there's so much lag on those grenades, I'd almost guarantee it, is because he's being forced to play on servers... Because I, again, was just on the game looking at this. Forced to play on servers that are, South America, the Brazil servers, the Mexico servers, Mexico area servers. Like, that's who's playing it right now. That's the only servers that are up. There was like a handful of servers that had any players online at all. And the most populated one that had like 40-some people on it right now had, for me... in borderline middle USA. It was 290 ping, 280 ping for me. Like, that's why he's having to do this. Because he's on one of those servers, the only servers that are currently up and have players playing it. So he has to play on this 200, we'll say 200 plus ping server. But yeah. Totally good game. Like, top tier. Don't know why more people aren't playing it right now.
Pinned on a modder or a small studio. And I'm not even exaggerating in the slightest. If it was up to these soulless corporations like EA and Activision, they would churn out Assassin's Creed, Call of Duties, all on the same engine with a fresh paint job, like polishing a turd, putting lipstick on a pig, year after year after year after year, until you stop buying it. Billions.
Can you really even say that right now? Like, really? Like, look at your recent titles from these businesses, from these names, right? Let's look at Activision. The past two Call of Duties, like the 2019 Call of Duty Modern Warfare, was a damn near complete reimagining of the game and how the core game works and functions, right? Very different. Was not the same cookie cutter formula they've been using for years to generate revenue. It was very different. And honestly, it was there for a minute. It was kind of polarizing in the community. A lot of people didn't like it, felt it was a little more lent to into the hardcore aspect of the community, a little too much realism in it, too low of a time to kill, gun handling felt, too realistic or too much recoil, And they've dialed that back in, and they've gotten a better understanding of, like, balancing between the two communities. And then, let's see, EA. EA just released Dead Space, the remake. I mean, what's there to say about Dead Space remake? It's spot on how you remake a game. It's not quite as good of a remake as, say, like, the Resident Evil 2 remake or Resident Evil 4 remake, right? Those are, like, the fucking kings of remake. Capcom is just another level. But the Dead Space remake was great. Top tier. 10 out of 10. No real complaints. Just awesome game. And that has EA's name stamped on it. EA, for the first time, and I understand, for the first time in a long time, EA was like, hey, decent developer, good developer, here's this project we want you to do. Go ahead and just do it. We're not really gonna fuck with it. They did that. They created an amazing game. an amazing remake to one of the most classic, best horror titles in existence. So your argument of these games, these big AAA studios, is probably being made at the worst time possible. Just gonna throw that out there. And also, I didn't hear Ubisoft in there. I don't think. I heard EA and Activision. But then you go on to say Assassin's Creed, which is a Ubisoft title. You do know that that's not the same company, right? Just wondering.
Trillions of dollars gamers have spent
Trillions?
lining the pockets of these corporations, scarfing down sequels of sequels of sequels. All of these games eternally having absolutely nothing new to add to games. Zilch, zero, nada, no innovation. Anyway, I'm out of energy. I think I need a nap, boys.
You think that all of AAA gaming for its entire existence has never had an innovation on it? Holy shit. I'll agree. All right. AAA title gaming. It's been sketchy for a long time, right? The Call of Duty series, the Battlefield series, the Assassin's Creed series. I understand what you're saying. You're talking about these cookie cutter games that are, like you said, a fresh coat of paint on it. You know, fresh coat of paint, slap it on the ass, ship it, right? It's done. But to say that they've not really had innovation over those years, I mean, fucking A, man. You're talking about, like, look at Titanfall. That was an EA title. Titanfall 2 had a completely reimagined, like, movement system that was so fucking good. It's now one of the big fucking, not MOBAs, Battle Royales. There we go. Something you just talked about earlier, right? The one you were talking about, PUBG, the mod that some sweaty dude made in his basement, which, again, why is he sweaty? But the one you were talking about, this sweaty modder in the basement making it, that game's damn near dead in at least the North American region, right? I can hardly even find games on that anymore. But the one that was made by a AAA publisher, that one is really well beloved. Not quite as well as Fortnite. I think Fortnite kind of killed all Battle Royales, though, to be fair. Every 13, 12-year-old wants to play fucking Fortnite, but whatever. And you're not really making sound arguments for yourself, because you talk about a modded game that sure was an innovation, but died really quickly. And honestly, looking back on it, probably wasn't the best. It probably only did as well as it did because there's nothing else like it. But I don't think ever in my life playing through PUBG did I think it did anything particularly well. It was just what was available. It was a cool, different style of game that's what was out. There was no other Battle Royales, right? Then Apex, which is personally my favorite Battle Royale because of how the gunplay, the movement, and everything else feels in it. It feels 10 times better than PUBG or any other clone of PUBG that came out. So, like, it's just kind of ironic that you're using this argument where you're bashing AAA that has made the better version of the product versus the mod that you are praising that made the worst version of the product. I will say there's a good like relationship between modders and the mainstream industry, right? I feel like modders are really good at creating ideas. Modders are really good at taking new ideas and making new games out of them, these new, like, really creative, out-of-the-box type of experiences that your AAA titles probably aren't thinking about. They probably wouldn't even ever imagine that type of game, like a Battle Royale. I would have never thought of something like that. I'm not that fucking creative. So I think they are really good at making out-of-the-box things and ideas. And then AAA companies are really good about taking those ideas and polishing them and making them. They take them and make them into, like, the best version of what they can be. Like what happened with Apex, what happened with Battle Royales. PUBG was not a good Battle Royale. That's why it's dead, and Apex, Fortnite, and everything else is way above it. Right? There's a reason for that. The market has spoken. All right? And again, you're talking about a paid Battle Royale versus two free-to-play ones that uses microtransactions as their main form of revenue. So, that should really tell you something about that. The original just died out really quickly. So I'm not really sure where you're getting this idea of like modders make everything better. Modders are good at creating ideas. DayZ, great idea, great concept, really cool idea. The actual gameplay, the actual game itself, the standalone, terrible, absolutely horrendous. I go back to DayZ at least like once or twice a year just to remind myself of how terrible that game is. And the modding scene in it still doesn't help. Doesn't create a better feeling of gameplay. You know what came out of that? Things like Tarkov. Picked up by, I wouldn't say a AAA developer, right? I don't think the guys who made Tarkov is this big company. But they were a more established group. They were a better founded group of people versus these handful of modders that kind of got together and created a branch of the Bohemia. Like, they weren't really game developers, and it really shows on how poorly they did with DayZ. So I'm not really sure how you're arguing that they've never done anything innovative, and the entire market is and should be fueled by modders. It's just an interesting point.
Let's hit down in the comments. Should I change my YouTube name to Old Man Boogie5? Or hey, we could drop the 5 if I do Old Man. Old Man Boogie. Yeah, guys, no offense to Bigfry or Tacty, but I had to freaking say it. And I get it. A lot of these videos I make, I'm just on autopilot. I'm just saying stuff. But this one here, man, I had to set the record straight. No offense. I love you guys, but it must be known. Consider this like a beta release, an alpha release. The whole point of
This is the one you prepped for? This isn't you just rambling on things that you're completely ignorant on? This is like, what, is this scripted? Is this your actual, like, you took notes, did research, and, like, played through their video, a handful of their video or videos a couple of times to, like, make sure you're getting every point, jot it down, make an argument, a counterpoint to it? This is the one that you're, like, fully focused on? Dear God, what are your other videos like then?
Steam release was to release the SDK. Think of the game as...
So then release the SDK. Just do that. Don't sit here and, like... What's happening right now is that the community is saying the game is bad. The game is terrible. Nobody's sitting here saying the SDK is awful and nobody wants to fucking be able to make mods, alright? Nobody's complaining about that aspect of it. People are saying the core game is bad. The core game is trash. It lacks basically everything that a basic FPS should have. Like, why not just say, hey, we're basically just releasing this just for the SDK. Like, don't even bother playing the game. Like, we just want to release the base, like, core features of the game in this most basic level and send it out to developers and modders and shit so they can create whatever the hell they want. Like, why are you trying to show the community this? Because, again, a lot of the community is going to look at this and be like, hey, this is fucking dog shit. And they're going to come back in, like, 6 months and see that it's still fucking dog shit because nothing's been done to it. And then they're going to go, fuck this game. And they're going to uninstall it, and they're probably not going to look at it for years. They're not even going to pay attention to it. They're going to see videos on it on YouTube by Blue Drake or whoever else, and they're going to say, yeah, no, I don't care. That game was fucking trash. I don't need somebody else to tell me how good or bad the game is. I experienced it myself, right? We're all guilty of that. I'm guilty of that with a couple of different titles that I played through, and I'm like, man, these were fucking awful. And then turns out, like, 2 years down the road, they've done a lot of improvement. They're actually really good, and it takes buddies of mine that have similar tastes to argue with me to be like, no, dude, just give it another try. So, I know personally, I just don't even bother with the YouTube videos. They're like, oh my god, this new update completely fixed the game. Because I've seen a million videos like that. We've seen a ton of videos like that on a bunch of indie games. We've seen a ton of videos on that, like DayZ, for example. The amount of DayZ fanboys that are out there that will sit there and defend the game all day long. They will sit there and make video after video of like, oh my god, this new update, it revolutionized all of DayZ. DayZ is the best it's ever been. And then it's just the same core game that's not really that good at all. So, again, this is something you should be more worried about. I don't get that aspect. You think of things very differently. Like, you are not looking big picture whatsoever. Because if Blue Drake and his team had just quietly released this game, and had it on, the mod community, some supporters and stuff, said, hey, look, this game is out, a private link, private download for the ability to work with the SDK and make mods for the game, or if they just hadn't hyped up the release of this title in its current state, then I think it would have went over a lot better. I think it would have been a lot better if you had just done it quietly and gotten more done before releasing it in this state. Because again, like I said, you should be worried about this. The community is already dying. I'm part of the Discord. I check the game out every couple of days to check, how many people are on it. Because I want the game to succeed. I want the project to succeed. I think it has some cool starting features, some cool, starting mods. Like the Starship Troopers mod, really cool idea. Want to see where that goes. But I see the dwindling number of players that are currently online at any given time. I see the dwindling amount of interactions in the Discord server. I mean, half the time when I look on there, there's just a couple of guys, like 2 or 3 guys, at the same time, all the time, just chatting with each other. There's not a whole lot else going on. Maybe occasional person coming in that just finally tried out the game, asking about this mod or that mod, or I'm having an issue with this or that, and they're going to the Discord for support. And then they don't ever chat again in the Discord. So your community is dwindling because you have no core game. There's nothing keeping us here. And that's what you should be concerned about. As somebody who's a fan of the project, you shouldn't be sitting here telling people that, oh, Bigfry and who was the other one, Tact something, whatever the fuck, they're wrong and they're just misinformed and they just don't know what the hell they're talking about. No, you should be like, hey, yeah, these guys are kind of right. Maybe we should focus on a little more quality of life, give the game an actual feeling of a game, and make it something people will come back for. Instead of, it has the best mod support ever, and if you guys just stick around while the developers take the next 3 years to flesh out the game, and modders will just make it all better, and everything will work out just fine, guys, I promise. Not a very good approach to it. Not a very good approach at all.
Back burner. It's all about releasing the SDK to any and everybody willing to try their hand at modding. That's it. Oh, and personally, there's some impressive stuff here. Like the bullet drop. Get a sniper rifle and shoot at a guy 200-300 meters away. I don't see any creator talking about that either. And how you judge gunplay, turn it around.
The bullet drop in the game is terrible. The snipers feel awful. Like, what is this guy talking about? I literally have experimented with this because I thought of it when I first played the game, and I played the World War I factions, right? I played the World War I factions, used a sniper rifle, and felt like, man, the bullet travel time and bullet drop are really extreme on these weapons. All right? Not really sure what that's about. Let me try the exact same weapon, but the infantry variant of it. You literally just have the same bolt action, but one has a scope on it, one doesn't, essentially. And the infantry version has a much less severe bullet drop, and it has a lot faster projectile speed. So I don't know what the hell you are talking about. And also, do you think that bullets just drop significantly at 200 to 300 meters? Have you fired a gun? Ever?
On a corner and shooting at a guy 20 meters away just doesn't make sense to me. Alright, let me stop. I almost forgot. Freaking nap time. I could make this video an hour long if I wanted to. Let's give a shout out to the Millsip Minions, my channel members, my inspiration.
Let's not give a shout out to them. That's it. That's the end of this. I don't understand the reasoning behind some of these guys. I don't like fanboys. I don't like people who sit here and try and make arguments and defend a game that is not good. The base game of Operation Harsh Doorstop isn't good. It isn't. It's bad. It's fucking raw. It needs about another 6 to 8 months in the oven with real heavy heats for it to be something that is worth releasing again. And I don't care about the mod support. I don't care about the ability for people to come in and change things. All right, the core gameplay and the core mechanics need help. Fix that. You've got the SDK out. You have a full community. The community has done more modding and done more random weird shit than the developers have in the past 3-4 months. I haven't seen a single developer like really do any releases or like updates that are significant in any way or change any of the gameplay. But yet I've seen another 10, 15 mods pop up in the past 3 weeks. You know, I've seen some really good ideas and projects that people are doing with this game. But it's not going to matter when there's nothing, when there's no game for the mod. So, hey guys, Blue Drake, you might want to focus on helping the community you already have and keeping them invested. But anyway, that's going to do it for me. I don't really have anything else to say about this. Again, I don't think that guy is. I don't think that Boogie5 is it. I don't think he has any like ill intent in this video. I don't think he's trying to talk shit on Bigfry or the other guy that he was talking about. I don't think he's like actually just this massive fanboy of Blue Drake or anything. But I think he's letting his bias get way, way ahead of him. And I think he's just allowing his excitement for the project and also the fact that he is going to be a little biased because he's a follower of Blue Drake, I am pretty sure. So he's, somebody who likes Blue Drake's content and wants to believe in Blue Drake's project, which is fair. But you can't sit here and argue that there's not really problems with the game or give excuses to every problem with the game and act like that's perfectly fine. It's not. You need you need some decent base mechanics for the game to go off of, right? So maybe just rethink your position on it, man. Maybe just do a little bit of thinking. Do a little rework on that game, Go through again, play with some bots or some shit and just actually look at the core game. Look at the graphics, look at the map design so far. Look at the vaulting, look at the gunplay, feel how that feels. Listen to the audio, like look at the base features that the game is lacking and how kind of frustrating that is. Just take an hour and play the game and just soak all of that in and be a little more critical of the game, and you'll see what we're seeing. Right now, you're looking at it through the lens of absolute bias in that you want the game to succeed because you believe in modding and you are a assumed fan of Blue Drake, so you want the person you enjoy their content of to succeed. I get it. But maybe you should actually do a double take. Alright? Anyway, that's going to be all for me. Again, wasn't planning on making a video on Operation Harsh Doorstop. It isn't really worth the time yet. But if it does become worth the time, I will definitely do something on it and show it off a little more. But anyway, I'm going to head out. Until next time.